A big issue with water the past couple of months, especially in Tshwane, and they say that the future conflicts of our world will be fought over water. It's a scarce resource, even though it's very easily accessible most of the time. Well, the city of Tshwane and Rand Water already having engaged in a war of words. It seems they've been dragged into the same room together and been told to get on the same page. We'll talk about that. The utility, that being Rand Water, says the city is not reducing its usage. The city is accusing Rand Water of not maintaining supplies. So we're all busy shouting at each other and no one's actually doing anything. Up until now, it seems. The Water and Sanitation Ministry has met up with them to try and come up with solutions. So what is that? Tshwane, let's see if we can get you some answers. Deputy Minister David Mahlobo joining us. Deputy Minister, morning. Appreciate the time. I don't want to go back into who said what to who and when. When are we getting water in Tshwane? When did the taps turn back on?
Thank you very much, Gareth. The first thing that we must commend is that the leadership of Tshwane, led by the executive mayor and Rand Water, they have agreed to cease fire and stop the public spares and get down to the action, which is to provide water to the citizens of Tshwane. And Minister Tshwane and myself, we convened them. And we agreed to create an institutional mechanism on how to engage. And if there are any issues, we should be able to work with them together. One of the things that has happened is that we have agreed on an 8-point plan. One of the 8-point plan was to ensure that they collaborate in the management of the water system from end to end, from the bulk site into the reticulation until to the households. One of the most important aspects is that they've agreed on standard operating procedures. In other words, the availability factor or the assurance of supply in terms of the storage facilities is one of the things that they've agreed to monitor, because we have your Rand Water main system that have command reservoirs, which are the primary reservoirs, and Tshwane reservoirs. One of the things that they must do all the time is to ensure that these reservoirs, they don't go below 60%, because normally the range is between 60 to 70%. Then you have enough lag time to ensure that even if there's load shedding, but water will be able to flow into those particular
What is
communities.
the state of the reservoirs at the moment, Deputy Minister? What's the state of reservoirs at the moment? What percentage are you sitting at in Tshwane?
This morning, there were areas that were affected in the main around in the east, the Mooikloof areas, because there was a high level of consumption yesterday and last night on the basis of the heat. It dropped to about 7%, and then it has risen to about 39%. In other words, there is a restoration of water. And in some of the areas, some of these reservoirs, because of the high heat yesterday, they are ranging around 40% and above. And that's not very acceptable, because it will impact in the availability of water in the high-lying areas. But in the meantime, both the Chief Executive Officer and the COO of Rand Water, working with the General Manager for Suite of Tshwane, they were briefing me this morning that they are managing that, including how they are going to communicate. But there are fundamental issues that they need to attend to. The issues of the telemetry, so that they are able to look from end to end, they share the information. But going forward in our engagement with Tshwane, we must be able to discuss the adequacy of the infrastructure, whether the infrastructure is in such a way that it will be able to meet the demand. Last week, remember, Minister Tshwane with Rand Water, they brought another additional 150 megalitres into the system. But there are issues in many of the municipalities in Gauteng. In Tshwane, we are losing about 32% of the water. And in other words, if we don't address the issues of the non-revenue water, even if we pump more, they will still lose.
Yeah,
Then there's an issue
because
that
we've known
they
about the
need to
infrastructure
invest.
issues for a long time, Deputy Minister, and it's well versed and well documented how much water we lose because of cracked pipes, etc. I don't want to spend too much time on that, Deputy Minister. We can get into the details in another interview as to how to fix it going forward. I want to get a sense today, those areas, what areas in Tshwane still have no water, and when will they start getting water? I just want to get a sense for residents watching this, because they don't care who's doing what. I'm sure you agree. They just want their taps to work. So what areas don't have water, and when will they start getting water?
Well, I was saying that the areas that struggled to have water last night, it was the area in the east in Mooikloof. Other areas like your Silver Lakes and in the townships, the report that we've got from the team that people are actually getting water as expected. But then there's a responsibility that we need to share with the citizens, that the more the temperatures are rising, we'll want them to use water very wisely. And if there are challenges in other areas, especially the high-lying areas, they should be able to interact with their councillors, because our decision in terms of that political steering committee, we are actually communicating with councillors so that they will be able to ensure that if there's a dip below the normal range in terms of those reservoirs and the pressure is becoming low, the citizens, they know how to respond. But even if there are any issues of interference in the system in terms of the line, because there is vandalism in the lines, and then they know how that these teams are dispatched timelessly, the operational team, so that they can attend to those issues.
What's your ultimate timeline? All the issues obviously taken into account, infrastructure issues. There's the vandalism, Deputy Minister. I think everyone knows that the blackouts aren't helping. I know it's a mess. I just want to try and get a timeline from you. Are we thinking by the end of this week we should have Tshwane, all areas up and running, end of next week? Just give me some kind of timeline for our viewers, please.
Well, the current information in the telemetric system that is monitored on a daily basis, there are no other areas that are affected other than the area that I was saying, that particular line that is servicing Mooikloof is the one that had already dipped. But the others, as I was being briefed this morning, they are at a stage where it is acceptable that people will be able to receive water. But if there is any interruption, the team will be able, the operational teams that are jointly working together, to balance the system so that you don't have a problem that there are areas where the pressure is too low, in the other areas the pressure is too high. And we'll be continuously monitoring with the executive mayor and the chair of the board that we receive these reports on daily basis. And there's going to be an ongoing continuous communication jointly by Rainwater and by the city of Tshwane, and if there are any other issues that citizens have to respond to.
All right, so you've dragged them into the room together to make them get on and start getting on with the job. So maybe we'll keep an eye out for Randwater and the city of Tshwane for updates as well. Deputy Minister, forgive me, I am going to ask you to be as brief as possible on this answer. Just the water situation in KZN, if you don't mind. We're hearing there's more concerns on the KZN South Coast. Some areas like Impendile, local municipality, haven't had water for weeks and months. Just talk to our KZN audience. What's happening in that province quickly?
There are areas indeed that there is a disruption of supply in terms of water, and both the department in terms of our provincial offices are trying to be supporting that particular municipality, and will be in a position to communicate ultimately that in the short term they have to be provided with water while we're sorting their infrastructure challenges, because most of these municipalities, especially that one you are mentioning, they have financial issues in terms of their ability to discharge that responsibility of giving water to the citizens.
Yeah, there's always something else, isn't there? There's infrastructure, there's money, there's blackouts. I mean, I get it. It's a difficult one. But, Deputy Minister, thank you. At least we've gotten some kind of clarity, some kind of plan from the Water and Sanitation Deputy Minister, David Mahlobo. You can hear trying to get an actual timeline is very difficult because no one really seems to know how long it's going to take. So, Tshwane, I hope that helped. It looks like most of Tshwane, their water is coming back. If you're one of those high-lying areas in Tshwane, that seems to be a problem because obviously gravity isn't on your side.